What is going on, guys? Ryan Nelson here, and today I've got something fun for us to test out. Let's take a look. Sipping the Kool-Aid here. I'm sipping the Kool-Aid. Yeah, that's right. I got my hands on a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. I am excited to test this out. If you've watched this channel before, this is going to be a little bit different of a format. So what I'm doing here is just kind of giving you my initial thoughts on this thing. And what I want from you guys is to get your questions. What do you want to know about this camera? So I've heard really good things about these Blackmagic cameras, Blackmagic cameras in general. I mean, for what you get for the price, it almost looks too good to be true. So over the next few weeks, I'm gonna be testing this camera out, variety of different situations, variety of things that I would normally put this camera through. But in the meantime, I also want to take your questions on this camera. I wanna know what you guys wanna know about this camera. See if I can help answer that, see if I can help put this through different tests to help you guys make the decision on if this camera is good for you. So let me know what you guys want to know about this Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. That is such a mouthful. That needs a better name. First suggestion, Blackmagic, give this camera a better name. So if you're watching this before October 10th, please put your questions down in the comments below. I just want to help you guys out to see if I can help you make a better decision in your camera buying process. So my initial thoughts on this camera, I've been using it for about 2 days now. Haven't really gotten super in depth with it, but you start to learn a camera the more you start to use it. First impressions, I'm actually highly impressed with this. I mean, I'm shooting 6K RAW. That's a lot of Ks and that's a lot of RAW, and together that's a lot of hard drive space. I do have a lot of hard drives because what I do requires a lot of hard drives. So just be aware that if you buy this and shoot in RAW, you do need a lot of hard drive space. So other than that, first impressions on this camera, it is a super simple camera to use. It's super clean, uncomplicated, which is so different from my Sony cinema camera. It is so complicated, I still forget how to change the frame rate sometimes. That should be a really simple thing to change. But this Blackmagic camera is so simple to use. Everything is straightforward. Pretty much everything I'm looking for, there's a button for it, or it's pretty simple to find in the menus. And the menu system in this camera is really clean, really easy to navigate, and very self-explanatory. So I'm really excited to check this camera out, get a little bit deeper into it, see what I can see. So this camera does shoot Blackmagic RAW, and it shoots in ProRes. You do have several different quality settings you can choose from. Some of them are in ProRes, some of them you have to shoot in RAW. You can't choose every setting in RAW or ProRes. Something to look out for. But in my first initial backyard, let's just see what this camera does test. I was super impressed with this Blackmagic RAW capability. That being said, you do have to use DaVinci Resolve to process the RAW files. Makes sense, Blackmagic camera, Blackmagic editing program, they work together. But the good news is on that, the full version of the editing program, that license does come with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera when you buy it. So no worries on having to spend more money on an editing program. Now, initially comparing the quality of these two, I definitely see a much higher quality coming out of the RAW file than the ProRes file, which is kind of what I would expect. So with this camera, I'm gonna do a lot more in-depth testing. Like I said earlier, please let me know what you want to know about this camera. I will do my best to answer that for you. I'm going to answer my own questions. I want to answer your questions too. So to sum up my initial thoughts on this camera in no particular order, 1, it's big. It's not very big compared to other cinema cameras, but if you compare it to like a 5D Mark IV, it's big. It's really big in my hand. It's not really a pocket camera, but for what it is, it's fairly small. It's very clean. It's got a big, bright, beautiful screen on the back. Touch screen, really handy. I do wish the screen rotated or flipped out or did something, but you're not gonna win them all for such a low price point. This camera is super clean. It's simple. It's easy to pick up, put a battery and a card in it, and just take it out and start shooting. There's not a whole lot of setup with this camera. It's a really run and gun camera. It's super simple, super clean, super easy to use. You're gonna need a lot of batteries though. I have noticed that immediately. It chews through Canon batteries. Like every 30 seconds, you're gonna lose 8% of battery. It just goes down and down and down and down. And next thing you know, your battery's dead and you gotta throw a new one in there. So battery life could be better. Extra batteries or a larger battery pack is something you're probably gonna wanna invest in if you're gonna be using this camera out on location. That being said, in the box, it does come with a 12-volt adapter, so if you're shooting in studio, plug it in, constant power, no problems there. It's got lots of ports on the side. The one thing I do like about this, at first I'm like, oh no, this only has like a mini XLR port on the side for audio. I don't have that connection, but it does have a mini XLR and an 1/8 inch, so I was pretty excited about that one. Now, if you're used to shooting on DSLRs or mirrorless cameras, you're gonna be missing a few things on this camera. First, you don't have a hot shoe on top or a cold shoe. It's replaced with a 1/4-20 mount, which I think might actually be more efficient. That just gives you more options on what to mount to this camera. The other thing you might be missing if you're coming from one of those other DSLR type cameras is a viewfinder. I am still trying to get used to this when I'm shooting handheld on this camera. It's kind of strange not to be able to put it up, especially now that I'm used to my EOS R, has that electronic viewfinder. I can shoot video while looking through the viewfinder. I find that to be really handy for stabilization, not on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera. I do really like that they put a Canon EF mount on this. I think that's gonna open this camera up to a lot more people. You don't have to buy one of those Metabone speed boosters, which are very expensive if you've never looked one up. I'm really happy that they decided to put an EF lens mount on this body. So no adapters necessary. And that bigger Super 35 sensor behind that lens, digging that too. No problems there. One thing I noticed immediately when I started shooting with this camera was the autofocus. It does have autofocus, but from what I can tell so far, I haven't found it to have a continuous autofocus. So it can be nice, but when you're recording yourself like this, it still makes setting focus kind of hard. So I can't just walk over here, sit down, and have that camera focus on me. I have to manually set that focus. I have to bring in a simulated me, focus on this, and there goes my light. Let's bring that back. So I have to do that and then set the focus, but I want to see if there's another way I can set a continuous focus in this camera. So I am doing a much more in-depth review on this camera. I'll link that up here when it's done. So go ahead and check that out if that link is up there. If it's not, I haven't done the review yet, or I'm in process of it. All right guys, tell you what, if you want to see a much more in-depth review of this camera, hit that thumbs up button down there. Why not? Why not? Also, while you're down there, hit that subscribe button. There's a little bell next to it. Hit that if you want to get notified when I do my much more in-depth review of this. And until then, I will see you guys next time.